Hey, good morning, and welcome to another segment of My Tea for the Week. Oh, yeah, it's your girl Valerie Locust, and today's subject we're going to move these mountains together, 6 feet apart, of course. So go ahead, girl, and grab your tea and meet me at the table. You already know I have something to say. True story. When I was a girl, maybe about 11, 10 or 11, from time to time we would take a trip to Mississippi. And we would go through some states that had mountains. And for some reason, mountains always have fascinated me. It was just something about them that made me curious. There were mountains that were close enough that it appeared I could reach out and touch them. There were mountains that set far off in a distance that were real tall. And then there were also mountains that we saw in the rivers. And I would wonder sometimes if these mountains ever moved, girl, if the mountains had Indians that at some point in time were going to run down the side of the mountains and attack us. Don't laugh, y'all. You know that's what we used to see on TV. But for the mountains that were up close and personal, sometimes I would shun from looking at them. I would close my eyes. Why? Because the mountains intimidated me. Ain't that something? Stationary, wasn't doing anything other than just being there, intimidated me. But now we would see a sign from time to time that said, beware of fallen rocks. Now, there are some other things, y'all, we can learn about the mountains. One being that they do not all serve the same purpose. That's right. We have some mountains that do what? Their sole purpose is to produce fresh, purified water for us to drink. And then we also have some mountains, because of their height, they do what? They produce a better quality of air. However, there is a downside to the mountains as well. One being because the mountains can be so tall, they can cause the weather to become bitterly cold. That's right, the winds whip harder and fiercer because there's nothing to ward off the air. And secondly, they possess a high risk for wildfires. So, what does it say about the personal mountains we'll face in our own lives? What it says is that each mountain that shows up in our life has a specific purpose. We can't treat each mountain the same. We have to know the strategy. We have to put that strategy in place in order for us to either make that mountain move or see that mountain fall. Yeah, we got to remember, honey, that these mountains, they ain't gonna just move by themselves, y'all. I know we listen to that song that says, Lord, you don't have to move this mountain, but give me the strength to climb it. Listen, y'all, listen. Yes, he does. He moves mountains for us all the time. However, there's going to come a time, y'all, that we are going to have to learn how to command these mountains to move and get out of our way. That's right. Because, if we don't, we'll be just like how I was when I was a little girl, turning my head, shunning from them, wouldn't look at the mountains. Why? Because they were so big and they were intimidating. But honey, no, listen, we got to look at these things and deal with these mountains in our lives head on. And you can't even wait. You don't want to wait until they get to their maturity. No, we want to deal with these mountains while they're still in their infancy, little molehills. That's right, honey. We're going to learn how to stand on God's word, speak God's word, stand on God's word, and then believe and know that what we say will happen. It will come to pass. Even though the mountain's big and tall, wide, and you can't see over it, around it, or behind it, just know that what you say, when you speak to that mountain and you have faith and believe it, honey, that mountain's got to come down. I don't care what it is. So what happens if we just constantly, continually focus on the mountain, how big it is, how wide or how tall it is. Listen, number one, we will never change our mindset or even change our glasses. That's right. In other words, we will continually focus on how big the problem is instead of knowing that there is a solution to that problem. Number two, we will never see ourselves on top of that mountain, walking through that mountain, or moving that mountain. And number three, that mountain will continually intimidate you until you say, enough is enough. But see, we can change that around too, just like everything else. That's right. Because see, what I'm going to start doing, instead of just looking at the problem, which is that mountain, I'm going to start looking at the pros and the cons. That's right, dealing with that mountain. For instance, when the mountain shows up, instead of just automatically complaining about the mountain, how about if we asked ourselves this question? Why is this mountain here? And what am I supposed to learn from it? Number two, I'm going to then size that mountain up. It would be just like if I was getting ready to be in a natural fight and somebody's bigger than me. I'm not going to just run out there throwing haymakers. No. Honey, listen, I'm going to size that person up, and then I'm going to see what I need to do to be able to beat that person up. Come out the winner. And then number three, I'm going to stand on the principles of God's word. That's right. I'm going to stand on it. I'm going to speak it. I'm going to stand on it. And again, I'm going to believe it. And then I'm going to watch it happen. But no, we can't be wishy-washy. Because the Bible always talks about a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. So once we see that mountain, size that mountain up, speak God's word concerning that mountain, knowing that we can do all things through Christ that strengthen us, then I'm going to wait patiently until I see that thing comes to fruition. Oh yeah, mountain, you coming down. You just don't even know it. That's right. Because see, if you're like me, honey, listen, we are tired of living beneath our privileges. No. It's time for us to take back, snatch back all of these good things that God has promised us. But we got to go through these mountains. We just got to move them out the way. And honey, I believe after today, as we lock arms in arms, honey, we're going to have a new mind and a new fight within us to take back what belongs to us. So let's just go over a little review here before we say goodbye one more time. Number one, let's just all agree, remember, and understand that as long as we live in this life, we are going to be confronted with mountains. But mountains can fall. Mountains can be moved out of the way, and we can stand on top of our mountains. Number two, they were never meant to destroy us. Remember the pros and the cons of the mountains. But they were sent in our life so that we can learn that God has given us power to do what seems to be the impossible through him, of course. But it can be done. So don't run away. Don't shun from them. Stand them things toe to toe. And tell those mountains, command those mountains, oh yeah, you coming down. And believe what you say, and they will come down. Number three, let's change our language. From I can't until I can, and I will. Because after all, what, girl, you know it's Christ who strengthens us to do all things. And number four, if the mountain just simply refuses to move, honey, don't get discouraged. Girl, just change your strategy. What is the strategy? Glad you asked me that. Number one, no, if talking about it ain't going to solve the problem, praying about it. Number two, strategy, sometimes you got to not only pray about it, you have to fast about it. Number three, sometimes the strategy has to be you fast and pray about it. And number four, sometimes you have to decree and declare a thing. Believe it, stand on it, and it will fall into fruition. As always, it's such a pleasure to just hang out with you for a few minutes just to try to encourage you as I encourage myself. And don't forget to, if you haven't already, leave me a message and or subscribe to my channel. I'll be so glad to hear from you. Stay safe, take care of yourself, and as always, cheers to the new and improved you.